We are 1 week away from Christmas, and the Jim Harbaugh contract buzz has hit an absolute fever pitch. Will Michigan get a deal done this week? Or will Jim Harbaugh take off to Pasadena a week and a day from now, thinking that, hey, this could be the last game he coaches at the University of Michigan? Plus, Domani Jackson, he is in the transfer portal. He was this close to being a Michigan Wolverine. He was actually a silent commit at one point with the lure of playing a year with Will Johnson spark his fancy to transfer to Michigan. Then, does Michigan have a top 100 recruit about to commit in the next week, 2 weeks? We've got all those stories and more coming up on the Michigan Football Report. But first, I want to gauge what you guys feel. If Michigan does not get the deal done with Jim Harbaugh, and it turns out that after Michigan season's over, January 9th, of course, after they win the national title on January 8th, he looks to the NFL. Who would Michigan have as their next coach, right? Who would be the choice if it was you? Would you make Sherrone Moore the coach kind of the next day, keep continuity, all that good stuff? Or would you swing for the fences, try and do a national search to get the absolute best external candidate or maybe internal candidate, depending on how it goes there? Let me know what you guys would do. Type Sherrone or swing down into the comments. Let me know how you guys think Michigan should approach life without Jim Harbaugh, if it comes to that. We've got all those stories and a ton of analysis on what's going on with this program, all coming up in the Michigan Football Report right now. Get your beep over to manscaped.com right now. Use promo code GOBLUE. We've got a week till Christmas. You got to get stocking stuffers. You got to get last-minute gifts. They got the best products for male grooming. Manscaped.com. Use promo code GOBLUE. 20% off and free shipping. Does Michigan have a commitment on tap from a 2025 player, right? A high school junior, not a guy who's going to be, signing on the line that is dotted coming up on Wednesday, National Sign Day. We're talking about another year from now, the 2025 class. Alex Graham, you may remember him. He was a pretty big player as a sophomore at Detroit Cass Tech. Committed and went down to IMG for his junior season. Has played really good, had a really solid season for them, and is now a top 100 recruit as the 2025 class starts to kind of come into fold as National Signing Day is on Wednesday, the early National Signing Day, which really, for my take, has become the main National Signing Day. Not really much happens in the February one anymore. He was at Michigan for the Ohio State game. He's made a number of visits there from Detroit. Cass Tech guy. They've sent a ton of guys to Michigan over the years. There is a lot of buzz coming right now that he will be a commitment in a matter of week plus days, even potentially after Michigan signing day. He'll be one of the first guys to put his name and a commitment for the 2025 class once signing day is over. So we're getting, if he decides to commit to Michigan, a top 100 player, a safety, returning home, a little coming home. Pretty, big player. He's not small by any means. Kind of reminds me in the way of his play, at least the way I see it, and how he plays. Kind of a Rod Moore, although much more highly rated than Moore was coming out of high school. So that is the latest there. Alex Graham, rumored to be ready to commit to Michigan shortly after the signing day for the 2024 class, but he himself will be a part of the 2025 class. Could be the first commit after signing day for this class. Will be number 4 overall. Guys, we hit 30,000 subscribers over the weekend. Thanks so much to everyone who has subscribed. We're calling you guys the 30K crew going forward, but no resting for the laurels. We got to build this channel, build this show as we go towards a national championship and beyond. College football playoff, 12 teams next year, 18-team Big Ten. The stories will not stop there, so make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you not yet. We get 30 more subscribers on today's video to celebrate that milestone of 30,000 subscribers. A reminder, guys, signing day is Wednesday. The Jack and I, young Harbaugh, we will be alive, 1 o'clock Eastern, signing day special. We'll go over the entire recruiting class. Hopefully there'll be some news that day, although it does seem like the 2024 class has kind of been news-free over the past 3 or 4 months. So join us. Set a reminder, 1 o'clock Eastern Wednesday. We'll be live for probably 2+ hours. We'll break down the entire recruiting class, any news that happens, but a lot of the focus will be on the Harbaugh contract, some 2025 recruiting, but maybe inside Michigan's game plan as we are now 2 weeks from today away from the Rose Bowl, Michigan against Alabama. Going back to 2025, though. Look at this class here. 3 commits so far. Chris Ewald from down south. He's a Florida boy, 4-star cornerback. I feel like he's one that potentially could flip at some point. A lot of those early guys who commit as a freshman or sophomore to a northern school from the south ending up in the SEC or ACC, so we'll see how he shakes out. Does seem pretty solid, though. Carter Smith, the quarterback, only rated as a 3-star. And then from the state of Michigan, Bobby Kenka, all-time name guy right there. And as we turn our eyes to 2025, I mean, is the 2024 class just wrapped up at this point? Will there be any rabbits pulled out of the hats over the next 48 hours with signing day coming up Wednesday morning? I don't think that there will be. I think that Michigan has been putting all of their efforts in over the last couple weeks, couple of days into other things that aren't going along with this calendar. Now, you've heard a ton of college football coaches, Chip Kelly, I heard the Auburn coach, I've heard Lane Kiffin complain about the college football calendar, which I agree with, right? Over a 1-month period, imagine if you're in the college football playoff, it's going to get way worse next year with 12 teams. You've got to worry about signing up getting all your 2024 commits this year to sign on signing day. Okay, cool. You've got to worry about who's transferring out. You got to worry about recruiting portal guys coming in. You got to worry about what guys are going to leave for the NFL, all while getting ready for a game in the college football playoff. It's crazy. It's got to change. And I think Michigan probably put too much effort last year on the portal, on the recruiting class, maybe for good reasons, but took their focus a little bit off TCU. This year, it seems to me from what I've heard over the past 2 weeks that they're putting all their effort into the matchup for Alabama, making sure they're putting everything, their preparation on the line to get a win in that game. And maybe recruiting in the transfer portal is just going to kind of linger out there. They're not going to have as many big splashes as they did last year around this time. We're 2 weeks out from the game, though. The line has continued to fluctuate. Michigan was a 2.5, 3-point favorite. It's kind of come down to 1.5, 1. Now it is a pick 'em for about the last 5 or 6 days. Over-under has dropped to 45. I think it was like 46.5 to start in when the game was first announced. I think the game is going to come down to the play of J.J. McCarthy and the defense of Michigan, right? But J.J. McCarthy, he's got to make good passes. He's got to put guys in position to make plays down the field more than he has, really, honestly, since the second half of that TCU game last year. But maybe make an impact on his feet is the difference for Michigan. So ask you guys this question. Just type more or less in the comments. I'm putting the number at 40 rushing yards, which would be among his top games, at least this season, for Michigan. 40 rushing yards against Alabama. Give me a more or less for what you think J.J. McCarthy is going to do with his legs. So more of the 2024 recruiting class. Momentum has really just screeched to a halt, right? Once fall camp came, it never really picked up when the season started, right? The first 3 games of the year, Jim Harbaugh was suspended, and Michigan didn't want to see he's suspended for recruiting violations, didn't want to have these big, elaborate recruiting trips, et cetera, guys coming on campus. And then once Harbaugh got back in there, okay, cool, we've got a couple of visit weekends, et cetera. Then the counter-science thing happened, and it made it tough to recruit during that. So this 2024 recruiting class has kind of just stalled once August hit, hasn't really put together any, big storylines or anything. And finally, for me, signing day coming up is going to kind of be a dud for most fans of recruiting nationwide, but for Michigan, especially the number 16 class right now with 26 commits. You see the top class right there. Ohio State trying to hold on to some of their top guys. They are the number 2 class behind Georgia. Basically every single year right now, it's Georgia, Ohio State, and Alabama. Those 3 schools have ruled recruiting in this college football playoff era. So I don't expect any buzz coming up on Wednesday, but make sure you guys join us live. I'll give you my analysis. I've been watching film on all of Michigan's commits. Hopefully there's some signing day drama in a good way for the Wolverines. Next up, Domani Jackson is headed to the portal. He's trying to spice things up at a new college as things have not really worked out for him in a defense optional school at USC. We'll tell you what we think, where we think he is headed. But I did want to tell you about Manscaped, the presenting sponsor of the Michigan Football Report. Santa baby, the season for a fresh cut is finally here with the sponsors of today's show, and that is Manscaped. They are the leaders in below-the-waist grooming, and they have just launched their 5th-generation performance package to help you avoid another silent night in the bedroom this year. Fellas, you got to take care of yourselves. Ladies, you got to take care of the fellas in your life. The Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra just launched a couple months ago from Manscaped. I love this package, though, the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra. All the items in this package sell separately for $258. You can get them on sale for $139.99 plus another 20% off when you use promo code GOBLUE. This kit includes the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer, the Weed Whacker Ear and Nose Hair Trimmer, Weed Whacker 2.0, I should say, the Crop Soother Ball Aftershave Lotion, the Crop Preserver, the Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant, and Magic Mat Disposable Shaving Mats. Those things are awesome. Make sure you're not getting the remnants of your Manscaped experience all over the floor. Plus, Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo, a pair of boxers, and the thing I love, the Shed 2.0 toiletry bag. All that comes in there. Imagine if you gave that as a gift to a guy in your life, or nudge somebody right now. You're watching this a week before Christmas. Make an order right now. Manscaped.com. Get the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, the all-in-one grooming package. The link is down in the comments. It's manscaped.com and the description. Use promo code GOBLUE for 20% off your order. $139.99 plus an extra 20% off using promo code GOBLUE. Thanks so much to Manscaped. I love it. My entire bathroom is absolutely filled with Manscaped products. And if you haven't done it yet, you got to start with them too. Go now. Get some for the Christmas holiday season. Let's talk some Domani Jackson. You guys remember Domani Jackson? I mean, he was as good as committed to Michigan for a long time, right? You start hearing the buzz about him coming out of his sophomore year, the fastest player in the state of California, the guy who broke the record for the 100-meter dash as a junior in high school in the state of California, was actually a silent commit to Michigan as a junior, right? As things started coming down the stretch of that 2020 season, he was a silent commit. Then he made like a visit or two, and the vibe was just off around the University of Michigan. Now, his father was really pushing him towards Michigan, but he is from the L.A. area, so he ended up being at USC. During his commitment, I'm sure we all remember this, most people thought that him and Will Johnson were the top two corners in that class. They were staying at each other's houses when they visited. One guy went to California, Will Johnson. Domani came out to Michigan, etc. They stayed at each other's houses. Their dads were on a text message basis. Now, why is he transferring? Well, his defensive back coach, Dante Williams, was just hired by Georgia. So it seems like the writing was on the wall. Dante, who was it? Dante, who am I doing here, Jack? I'm saying Dante Williams is the coach, Domani Jackson. I'm like, Dante Williams, Domani Jackson. Really, that relationship was what brought him to USC. And you remember back, right? Right when he was kind of going up to signing day, USC fired their head coach and ultimately ended up with Lincoln Riley. So he decommitted in November of 2021 when USC was out there for a head coach. Who knows what would have happened if they would have got somebody else, if they not would have got a high-profile coach like Lincoln Riley. But on signing day, he kind of took a step back from Michigan, wasn't part of their plans anymore. But Alabama was right there recruiting him big time. Ultimately, a month later on signing day, decided to sign and stick with the Trojans over Alabama. Now, his dad grew up in Ohio, Youngstown area, and was a Michigan fan. And really, from what I read, and he followed me on Twitter, he was liking some of my tweets 2-3 years ago. He was kind of pushing Domani to go to Michigan, but ultimately decided to stay home. The relationship with Dante Williams, who just went to Georgia, was probably one of the biggest ones. Let's go to that quote first we can, Jack. Domani Jackson, after Lincoln Riley was hired at USC, this is what he said. He said, honestly, if Dante wasn't coming back, I would be going to Bama, right? Going to Alabama, not Michigan, is kind of the Michigan vibe had just kind of died off with his interest after that 2020 season. That's my guy. He's been recruiting me since 8th grade, and I believe in him. So the defensive back coach under the former head coaching was Clay Helton, right? Was the coach there before Lincoln? And then Lincoln Riley comes in, keeps him on as defensive backs coach. If that had not happened, he would have probably played at Alabama. But had Dante Williams left earlier or anything like that, maybe it could have been Michigan. Ultimately, it wasn't. He was ready to commit to Michigan in fall of 2020. Ultimately committed to USC in January of 2021. A year later, 10 months later, November, he decommits, then recommits to USC. But 2 years from the time he was in that 2022 recruiting class, I should say, he is now back on the market. Now, Stuart Cravens, if you guys remember him, he was a pretty big recruit, 5-star back in the 2023 recruiting class, is in USC media, it seems like at this point, pretty active on Twitter, put this out there. He was a USC safety from 2013 to 2015, second-round pick in the NFL in 2016. He said, had a good talk with Domani yesterday morning, about an hour. My guess is between Michigan and Alabama, his former top picks. If I'm being 100% impartial, I believe it's a smart move career-wise. He's probably will end up in the SEC. Good luck regardless, little bro. Fight on now. USC fans are coming at him like, how are you going to tell a guy to leave the school, et cetera, et cetera. He said, I'm always going to tell a kid to do what's best for him. So I don't know. Will he end up in Alabama? Maybe. Hell, will the winner of the Rose Bowl get his services potentially? Maybe he's going to be at that game. I'm not sure if Michigan or Alabama is allowed to give him tickets, but in the era of NIL, why couldn't Will Johnson just buy him some tickets, right? I don't think that's a crazy thing. As far as though Dante Williams, as far as Domani Jackson, I give the shrug emoji. Like, why would Georgia hire him? Why would he be so obsessed with this defensive backs coach who has produced an awful defensive performance as if that side of the ball so far, right? In this season, USC is giving up 255.2 yards per game passing. That is number 115 out of 130 teams in college football. So I don't see what they see in him, and I don't think that they would hire a coach just to get a player who frankly hasn't performed really at that high of a level. Wasn't a starter as a true freshman, was a starter this year, but no really notable stats or performances that I've seen so far. Michigan certainly hasn't missed him, right? They certainly haven't slacked or really had a gaping hole, right? They got transfers in to take some certain spots, et cetera, et cetera. And clearly Will Johnson has performed to the level that Michigan expected him as a top 10 player in that class, a 5-star. Domani Jackson certainly has not. They don't miss him. He wouldn't be a make or break for the team next year, but they should pursue him. They should make him a top priority in this transfer portal season. I think that's what Michigan's got to do. They've got to reduce the number of guys they're offering, reduce the number of targets, just really key in on positions of focus for 2024. And some of those positions, they don't even really know at this point because you're not sure what guys like Rod Moore, you're not sure what J.J. McCarthy is going to do. You're not sure what Diamond Edwards is going to do. Maybe even Trevor Keegan or something like that. So this is a little tougher of a year for Michigan as there was a lot of guys who could end up coming back for another year or going that Michigan maybe does or doesn't expect. And you don't want to potentially over-recruit a spot or promise guys playing time if they ultimately don't get it if some players return back. Michigan will need help in the secondary, though, and that's why Domani Jackson should be a member of the small group of transfer portal guys that they should go after. He's only a sophomore, 3 semesters in college, so I think Michigan could get him admitted. He could end up being a graduate of the school, and that whole 50% of your credits have to come from Michigan. Let me know what you guys think. Domani Jackson, where will he transfer to? Give me an M, a G, or an A. I think these are the most likely schools, although Stuart Craven said Alabama or Michigan. I think the lure of his position coach at USC going to Georgia has put them right there in the running. So where will Domani Jackson land? Michigan, Georgia, or Alabama? Give me an M, a G, or an A down in the comments. Now on to Jim Harbaugh. I was told this morning the next 96 hours are absolutely critical. Just kind of goes to the timeline that we have been talking about for the last 2 weeks. I've seen others use that Christmas Day deadline that we told you about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. Now kind of claiming they have sources. Yeah, they're sources of the Michigan Football Report. Nevertheless, we're all kind of on the same train, hoping that Jim Harbaugh returns for another season. The future of Michigan football, though, 96 hours, that's 4 days, likely to be decided by Friday. I don't think a contract's going to get signed on Saturday. Sunday's Christmas Eve. Monday's that deadline. Jim Harbaugh's opening presence on Christmas Day. He's flying out to the Rose Bowl. He's not going to negotiate with Michigan while they're prepping for Alabama in that final week, in LA. He's not going to negotiate them. They win that game, prepping for the winner of Texas versus Washington. Only have a week turnaround from the Rose Bowl to the national championship game. So January 9th comes. NFL season's ending that time. A team like the Raiders, a team like the Bears, already one made the decision who their coach, fired their coach. Another one, the Bears, may make the decision in the coming days. Jim Harbaugh may have contracts waiting for him to sign on January 9th, January 10th, a day or two, when Michigan makes that national championship game. So I think that if nothing's signed before this weekend, Jim Harbaugh is likely gone. And I think Michigan knows that at this point. Now, I did see something somewhere else. I don't have a source on this, but I was kind of grab things going there, is that the NFL clause this year that Harbaugh couldn't go look for jobs, be very punitive to sign a contract today, go look for NFL jobs in 3 or 4 weeks from now. That has been resolved, and Jim Harbaugh is willing to move on with a very punitive clause for any NFL conversations or interviews or even accepting a job, a buyout this year. So I'm not sure what's holding up the train at this point. This week could be the week, though. If it's not, though, if we are here on Friday and Michigan has not signed Jim Harbaugh to a contract extension, I think, unless something happens on Saturday, that he is as good as gone. If you guys like Jim Harbaugh being Michigan's coach, like I do, I never doubted him his entire time at Michigan. I never doubted him, even when they were losing to Ohio State, even when they went 2-4. I never doubted him. If you do, put up the good vibes. Don't jinx it. Like we say always, don't jinx it. Good vibes. Like this video. If you don't like it and Harbaugh doesn't sign a contract, I'm coming for you. Let's keep the positive vibes going all the way to a win over Alabama. But you guys got to remember the date. I've been saying it for 2 weeks now, December 25th. Jim Harbaugh's date up here. Is Michigan serious about getting a deal done? I would wake up on the 26th. I'm heading to California. No deal done. Michigan might be in the back, the rearview mirror for him. Might have his sights on the Chicago Bears, Las Vegas Raiders, or others. Till we see you guys on Tuesday, we'll have another video for you. And Wednesday, live at 1 p.m. So we'll see you guys for both those videos. Go Blue.